Dolphins 31-6. Dak had the offense running on all cylinders. He's already thrown 9 touchdowns this season, which is second in the league. The struggle is real for his NFC's counterpart Carson Wentz as the Eagles lost to the Lions, falling to 1-2 on the season. I'm on this camera. Hey, camera. Guys, I'm going to start with you here. Actually, let's start with you here, Ryan. Which quarterback would you take right now, Dak or Carson?
Man, it's so hard because I think Carson Wentz is very talented and maybe a more naturally talented passer, but Dak Prescott is the guy you have to go with here. And first off, it used to be because Dak Prescott was a game manager and Dak Prescott wouldn't get you in trouble. Dak Prescott was a guy that remained healthy. But since getting Amari Cooper, his completion percentage is higher than anyone else in the league. And he's in the top five of many passing categories. And now you add what he's been able to do this year. They've been pushing the ball down the field, getting guys like Smith involved, obviously, and adding Randall Cobb. And the element that he has added as far as what he can do from the pocket, as far as creating more plays and also getting outside of the pocket and getting the ball downfield. Dak Prescott, if you don't have a Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson over these first 3 weeks, you're talking about Dak Prescott more than you're talking of any quarterback in this league. And if you watch Carson Wentz, there's always this fear that every time he takes a hit or when he hits the ground, because he hasn't really learned how to protect himself, that he's going to be a guy that won't be available the next play. You don't have that concern with Dak Prescott. And Kellen Moore is getting a lot of the praise for what Dak Prescott has been doing, but he can't help Dak Prescott be accurate. He's not helping Dak Prescott recognize the coverages downfield and make sure he's hitting the open guy. I believe Dak Prescott has been presented with a better supporting cast. He has a better offensive line. He has a better running back, and now he has some complementary pieces outside. But Dak Prescott right now is playing like the best quarterback in the whole NFC. It's not just the NFC East. He's the guy you're going to look to that can carry his team to the Super Bowl in this conference. And so for me, it's Dak Prescott in the East.
Ryan,
it's Dak Prescott in the NFC.
Why does Ryan always have to say his government name, though? It's never Dak. It's fully Dak Prescott. Every single time.
At least I didn't call him Dakota.
All right.
I can't argue against it too strenuously anymore. That's why it's a good question this morning. And I'm going to start with Dak. I'm going to say I'll still take Carson Wentz. But I'm going to start with Dak. I've always said he's a game manager who's big on third down and good under pressure. And he's mobile. So, like, the guys who come to mind, number one, Tom Brady, except he's not mobile, although he is when he needs to be, actually. Early in his career, got a little more credit than he deserved, maybe. And then later in his career, turned out to be even better than we thought he was going to be early in his career. Same thing with Russell Wilson. It kind of looked like in Tom Brady and Russell Wilson's case and Dak Prescott's case, they had that thing about them, but maybe they were doing it with a little smoke and mirrors until as time went on. No, they actually developed beyond where we even gave them credit for originally. I thought Dak could do the same thing. Maybe this is the year they're doing it. I do give Kellen Moore enormous credit for a more dynamic offense and the acquisition of Amari Cooper and the health of the offensive line and Dak's experience. Here's the thing about Carson Wentz. I'm still going to take him, guys, because I think he can just do some things that other guys can't. If it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, I'd be talking about Carson Wentz as maybe the new Aaron Rodgers type, right? But Mahomes does exist. Here's the thing that bothers me about Wentz right now, even though I'm going to still take him. The loss to Detroit reminded me of the Minnesota and the Carolina games early last season. The team isn't playing for Carson Wentz. And that, more than even the injuries, guys, is what I'm concerned about. Dak has the thing that gets his team to play for him, and always has, by the way. And so I'll make it closer than I would think just the eyeball test tells me. The eyeball test tells me Carson Wentz is just more talented. But the team's got to start playing for him. And Stephen A., I brought up this article so much that you've told me, all right, we know about Joe Santoliquito already. That article he did on Carson Wentz and the difference between him and Foles in the locker room. They loved Foles. Right? They played like they loved Foles. The offense and the defense played like they loved Foles. Same team. When Foles got back, they made first they won the Super Bowl, then they made another run the following year when they looked flat with Carson Wentz. Wentz has got to figure this out. He's got to figure out a way to lead, if that's possible, and interact with his teammates where they want to block for him, where the offensive line is where the defense comes on and they're juiced. He has not shown that yet, and therefore, I can't argue too strenuously against the Dak pick. I still believe in Wentz because I see the talent. The eyeball test says if it weren't for Mahomes, that would be the guy for me. But he's got to get the other stuff together. It's closer than it ought to be.
Dak Prescott is number 2 in MVP for the league behind Patrick Mahomes, number 1. He's completing 74.5% of his passes. They're 3-0 right now, and he hasn't had the injuries to deal with like Carson Wentz. Outside of that, Molly, I have nothing else to say because in the process of Max Kellerman making his argument about Carson Wentz, he said everything about Dak Prescott that there is to say. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Every time Ryan says Dak Prescott, take a shot.
Hey, I picked Dak Prescott. I got to say the man's whole name because he's earned that respect.
Is that his real name, though, Dakota? I didn't know that.
Yes. Rain Dakota Prescott.